two, three. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back. Oh, it's root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Hey!
This is
the Monday Morning Quarterback on the 24th of June, 2019 from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. We are continually rearranging some of our programs here, so bear with us. We'll have the week that was. It will come out, I believe, tomorrow, and also Numbers Man that's on this particular outlet will appear. And so let's get to it here. In women's football, in women's football, the U.S., I believe it was 2-1 over Spain in that particular contest. Let me just get our marquee up here as we run to the sports here, and we'll have the baseball scores from last night. The College World Series, Michigan 4-0 over Vanderbilt, and that is in the bottom of the second, so we're very early on that particular one. That was a 2-1 with USA and Spain. Now that is the Women's World Cup is going on. We also have the African Cup. I'm not sure if we have that available now or not. It appears we don't for our sports. Let's see. Well, we do have some things going on here. Sweden and Canada. Sweden 1-0 there. And these are some of the leagues as we'll get back to them. Let's move on here. I will start out with an executive order signed by DJ Trump. And this is an executive order that is dealing with pricing of that medical institutions charge. Now, part of the problem here is that we have an executive order, but we really don't have the details from Frederick Issy, is executive director of Families USA. Says that transparency about healthcare pricing is incredibly important. What we're concerned about is the administration can make an announcement about an executive order, but what we want to see is it put into practice, and does it withstand a various legal tests. No doubt that's back to Harry Reid's The Devil is in the Details. In a briefing from the HHH, Secretary Azar told reporters that another part of the order calls for government to consider proposals to give patients more information in advance about out-of-pocket costs they will face. Another directs the administration to draft a plan to consolidate healthcare quality data that exists for different programs such as Medicare and Medicaid. One facet of the order says agencies should significantly expand the availability of government data for researchers studying ways to improve healthcare. That would be definitely a plus, because what's happened here with the administration, many times the type of data that we would desire is not available. Is not available in these programs. If you recall, in the 2016 campaign, DJ Trump made it a part of his campaign to improve healthcare coverage and and costs. Now, what they were talking about there, Medicare is forbidden by Congress from buying in a bulk. The VA does buy prescription drugs in bulk, and that would save millions of dollars in terms of purchasing there. So those are some things that could be done immediately to take care of those items. And we are continuously looking to see how that can come about. Given my voice, it's kind of be abbreviated, but we'll go to what the Supreme Court has done. The Supreme Court's term should have been over today, but the way things are working nowadays, it's not over. In fact, there's a number of cases coming up here, and we'll get to some of these. This is about a vague law as no law. This is from Justice Gorsuch, who joined with the liberal members of the court, Ginsburg, Breyer, Sotomayor, and Justice Kagan. The 5-4 came on what was originally scheduled. This one would have been the last day of the court. The justices have not delivered opinions in 8 cases argued this term, including the role the federal courts play in policing a partisan gerrymandering, very important, and whether the Trump administration may add the citizenship question in the 2020 census form sent to households. The court will again be in session on Wednesday. Apart from the gun crimes, the decision, the justices made it harder, and this is unfortunate for public and news media organizations to obtain commercial information on the Freedom of Information Act. The court also announced that it would hear a case next term regarding what healthcare insurers say is the underpinning, the underpayment of them under the Affordable Care Act. Now back to Gorsuch. He assumed the role of the man he replaced, Antonin Scalia, who sided with liberals in a similar case involving laws that lower courts deemed hard to decipher. He also broke with Kavanaugh there. Writing for the majority, he said the statute provided no reliable way to determine which offenses qualified as crimes of violence. One of these laws that made it much easier for prosecutors to add on sentences to people. A statute that requires you to imagine how a crime would ordinarily be committed, and then to estimate the risks associated with the ordinary case of the crime produces more unpredictability and arbitrariness than the Constitution tolerates. According to Kavanaugh, getting rid of a key section, this is a 33-year-old law, not that old, is an extraordinary event, and that probably would result in release of some prisoners. The offenders who committed violent crime with firearms are often brutally violent crimes, what Kavanaugh said. And the people that agreed with him, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and in part by the Chief Roberts. The case is brought by 2 men, Maurice Davis and Andre Grover, who were convicted of robbing multiple gas stations in Texas. At trial, the men received additional mandatory prison terms for using assault-off shotguns in connection with the crimes. Kavanaugh said the previous decisions eliminating other vague provisions dealing with the law that imposed additional penalties based on early convictions. In contrast, the language struck by the court Monday centers on the defendant's current conduct. Now, according to a federal prosecutor, former federal prosecutor, said the ruling deprives federal prosecutors of a valued and frequently used tool to combat violent crimes. Congress should provide a legislative fix for this. The decision does not entirely strike the law, the enhancement for using or carrying a firearm, but it gets rid of some of the avenues prosecutors have used to increase penalties According to C. Justin Brown, he's a criminal lawyer in Baltimore, said the provision has allowed prosecutors to effectively turn already long sentences into life by tacking on additional mandatories. Now, the case was U.S. versus Davis. He said the ruling would eliminate some of the most egregious sentences we see in the federal system. The case is U.S. versus Davis in a Food Marketing Institute versus the Angus Leader, that's in a South Dakota newspaper. The court sided with industry groups fighting a South Dakota newspaper requesting information about the National Food Stamp Program. Very contentious thing. We used to do some of this type of data when we were at the Philadelphia Project. Anyway, the newspaper asked for data about retail stores that participate in the program, and the lower court said it should be turned over, but in a 6-3 decision, again, the Gossage was there, said the information falls into an exemption in the law for confidential or commercial information. He's wrong there. Breyer, writing dissent, said would require stores that demonstrate that releasing the information would hurt them commercially. The whole part of the FOIA is to give public access to information that cannot be obtained otherwise. During the term that began in October, the justices said Monday they will review another controversy involving the Affordable Care Act, one involving health insurers who said that the federal government owes them billions of dollars. That's been a contention there for a very, very long time. Let's see. Insurers say the government would never fully fund the program and that they were owed $12 billion, a very big sum there. Let me just down to Puerto Rico. Evidently, Puerto Rico has not been. I think this is the one. Yeah, they have not been given emergency food stamp aid in Puerto Rico. Trump is holding that up. It's a very unfortunate situation. The administration has not given Puerto Rico. This is $600 million in food aid, more than 2 weeks after the president signed an emergency funding order. Now, this in itself is a very, very egregious situation. Let me get back to Puerto Rico here. We'll have more on this when we have an opportunity to look further into it, but they don't expect the aid, this emergency money, to flow to them until September, most likely 6 months after food stamp cuts begin. Oh boy. The more than 1 million island residents who rely on the program there. This is from the executive director of Departamento de la Familia, the Puerto Rican agency that administers the program. Spanish is not what it should be today. Sorry about that. Emergency food stamp money for Puerto Rico ran out in March. We're now in June, starting a widespread reduction in benefits, and funding renewal was delayed by several months there in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rican officials said they were unsuccessfully sought to clarity from the Department of Agriculture, who administers the program. In a statement, the USDA said that the agency has been in contact with Puerto Rico, but the island must first propose a plan for how the aid will be spent. This is simply just as BS, requiring systems changes to its food stamp of food sufficiency program. The Department of Agriculture reviews and approves states and territories' plans for use of nutrition programs including Puerto Rico. Now, this is back to Hurricane Maria. This should have never been done. This should have been an expedited process, and it should have been over. In other words, the money should have been instantly available to Puerto Ricans that needed it. We've been working on this since March and know about it from before that. The fact that it's taking so long to get the money for families who need it is beyond frustrating and shocking. It's outrageous. That's from Hector Guzman, is professor at Branch College, part of the City College of New York. A lot of Puerto Ricans in New York. This is just a very, very, usually in these disaster situations, that type of money is dispensed, as it was even in Katrina, it was dispensed. Purchase of basic necessities for food runs to Walmart. This is some lady here, Veronica Vargas, a local store with $160, milk, so forth and so on, things that you normally get for a child. And the Herba story we talked about, this is, I'm assuming this is money that retailers receive for handling the food sufficiency program. Used to be called food stamps. They get a percentage. It used to be 8%. I'll have to look it up and find out precisely where it is these days. I'm not certain where it is, but we'll look that up and we'll find out for you where it is. Let me just check on my time here. Okay, we'll find. And sort of, okay, we got that done. Let's go to reparations. We've always wanted to talk about reparations. For those that follow that, the professor, well, a number of there are a number of people that do it, that follow reparations. Ishmael Reed somewhat does follow it, and Professor Nathaniel, I'll tell you, I'm not thinking today. I had to look on the my Facebook thing here, and I'm sorry about, oops. Well, we're not getting him here. But anyway, and a number of other people that have been pushing reparations. The Democratic candidates have talked about it. Reparations have been around. This is in the Washington Post here. They use the term black woman. I'll use the term African American woman. Launched a modern day fight for reparations. It was a grassroots effort. Queen Mother Moore is the one here for those familiar with Queen Mother. This is by Ashley D. Farmer, an associate professor of history and African diaspora studies at the University of Texas, Austin. She's the author of Making Black Power, How Black Women Transformed an Era. And this is Queen Mother Audrey Moore. And let me just give you a little background on this particular situation. Reparations hearing in the House. They had Ta-Nehisi Coates there. And he traded some bars with people like Old Man McConnell. But the bill for the hearing, it was H.R. 41, first introduced by John Conyers Jr. in 1989, who created a commission to study and develop a proposal for reparation for descendant slaves, while Conyers should be lauded for his original efforts to introduce the legislation. He championed it in the Congress. But it wouldn't be possible without Queen Mother Moore. Queen Mother Moore was the founder of the modern reparations movement. Indeed, black women have been at the center of the push for reparations for more than a century. Excluding them from reparation debates blinds us to the multifaceted modern movement. It also runs a risk of committing some of the most omitting some of the most generative and invective reparation proposal developed for date. That was where Professor Reed came in there, talking about, I believe at the hearings, they did not, and I'll have to look back into some of Professor Reed's, this is Ishmael Reed, the playwright, poet, virtuosi, etc., out of Oakland. Since the Civil War, black Americans have been prodding the federal government to rectify years of racial terror and prejudice. Some followed Carrie House, an ex-slave turned reparations organizer who formed the National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief, Bounty, and Pensions Association to mobilize freed men and women to lobby Congress for pensions in the late 1800s. This happened, was called in the federal government to make good on a special Field Order 15 short-lived Civil War era law that redistributed confiscated Confederate lands to former slaves. That was a 40 acres and a mule idea that has blossomed in the history. We've heard about it, and a mule. Very few people got to 40 acres and mule, if any. Became a catch-all phrase for reparation claims. The House created the reparation movement. Queen Mother Moore modernized it and popularized it. She was born in 1898 and dedicated nearly a half-century-long life to African liberation. She spent her childhood in New Liberia, Louisiana, and in New Orleans, places known for peculiar balance of racial violence and defiant African communities. For more, at every day life in the turn of the century, Jim Crow background, the modern iterations of slavery and Jim Crow. She came of age in the 20s, and in the 30s she realized that the promise of equality, security, and due process backed by the Constitution amendments were nonetheless out of the reach for most African Americans. They were instead replaced by total social and cultural separation, education, housing, segregation, expulsion of black folk from economic life and advancement. By the 50s, she took action, boldly declaring that somebody had to pay for the past and present atrocities that black people, African Americans, faced. For most of her life, Moore was a rare, if not singular, voice in the call for reparations from 1955 until her death. She died in 1997. She consisted of produced tangible models and for how the federal government might reconcile and redress the atrocities of slavery. These efforts led to a substantial organizing career that included petition drives that for bills like H.R. 40, reparation pamphlets, speaking tours. She engaged in intensive grassroots education there, and introducing a wide range of activists, politicians, lawyers, such as Charles Ogletree. He's a law professor, was at and taught Barack Obama at Harvard. In the 50s, she founded and organized multiple grassroots organizations, including the National Emancipation Proclamation Centennial Observance Committee and Reparations Committee, Inc. As leader of these groups, she engaged in widespread organization to collect signatures. In the middle century petition, she suggested the government pay a predetermined amount to descendants of slaves. In Moore's vision, reparation worked best when each recipient could use funds to repair, advance their lives as they saw it. She staunchly opposed trickle-down approaches such as plans for African churches or small committees composed of African elite to be in charge there. Her ideas sparked reparation activities in Los Angeles, Philadelphia. By 1963, She connected enough signatures to take the petitions to the White House in an effort to meet with John F. Kennedy. Kennedy's administration resisted to that. Many of ERA's organizers identified Moore as a key figure in shaping the reparation program of Malcolm X, and the Black Panther Party, the Revolutionary Action Movement were out there. Moore also published widely on the issue of reparations. Her best-known piece, Why Reparations, that was in 1963. She argued that descendants of African slaves must be given preferential treatment, job training, education. Those are some of the things sort of talked about. The presidential candidate Cory Booker talks about baby bonds, which is a different kind of situation. The National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation in America, a group found that was in 1987, I remember them. A collection of lawyers, historians, activists, and politicians continued to primarily lobby in support of H.R. 40. That was Representative Conyers' bill. Reparations keep on marching there. She showed in Queen Mother Moore how reparations had become a malleable concept, and one that's already endorsed by the federal government, conceived of broadly by the African American community. And this is back to Conyers' bill, and we'll finish this up. Black women like Queen Mother Moore had been offering viable paths for years, and no doubt about that. She had been offering those, and we heard about her back in the 60s, and she was around Philadelphia and various places. Queen Mother lived a very, very long time. People like Kwame Ture, it's a picture here you'll see with Queen Mother, and also as the late Winnie Mandela is in the picture there also. So a very, very violent movement going there. Let me just quickly give the baseball scores because it is the Monday morning quarterback. This is from Sunday night. The Marlins are 6-4 over the Phillies. Atlanta 4-3 over the Nationals. Incidentally, the Nationals now have, we'll get this in a minute, and 11 of the Pirates 11-10 over the Padres. Astros 9-4 over the Yankees, and the Reds, the Brewers actually 7-5 over the Reds. The Royals had a picnic in Kansas City 11-9, a slugfest over the Twins. And the Cubbies win 5-3 over the Mets. Mets are not a very good team this year. And Fernando Rodney is to the Nationals. I was thinking of him. Anyway, the Rangers are 7-4. The Rays and Athletics in Oakland was the Rays 8-2. And the Rockies were beaten by the Dodgers with 6-3. And in 10, the D-backs outlasted the Giants 3-2. Two teams that really are going in the wrong direction. The Mariners 13-3 used to live in Seattle. And finally here, the Angels win one in St. Louis, 6-4 over the Cardinals. I think we gave the score, I should say, at the Women's World Cup. And I'm not sure where we're going with College World Series. We'll have more on the College World Series. I'll have to look into more of the College World Series, see exactly where we are here. We hope. Try to get I think we're too early in the innings here to really get the idea here. We're just kind of some scores today. Let's see, it's only top of the fourth. The Blue Jays 2-0 over the Yankees, and the Mets and Phillies are 4-4 in the third, and the White Sox in the bottom of the fourth, 2-1 over the Red Sox in Boston, and the Cubbies and Atlanta goose eggs on the calendar there. So I've been talking a little bit of baseball, although the season is not there. And I guess, well, we're at the bottom of the fourth now, and it's a 4-2 game. Michigan 4 and Vanderbilt 2. This, I guess, will do it for us. We don't really have a lot in terms of polling here. We normally would from Real Clear, but the only poll out was an approval polling, which doesn't get us very far in the scheme of things. Nonetheless, this is Boston Red from the Jared Pippin broadcast booth on WBRN Radio and the Boston Red Network. Incidentally, we're on something now called a cache, so we're continually moving to a new network. So you can check us out on Twitter, iHeart, YouTube, and various other places. We'll be enhancing those as we move along. Let us rest our voice here. A good day, and we shall talk to you soon.